Hey, how's it going today, guys? So, I want to talk about wrists, okay? And can we build thick wrists, okay? Now, my opinion through my experience is yes, you can build thick wrists. Now, a lot of that does come down to genetics, guys. Now, the guys who have got good genetics who can build thick wrists will see a more noticeable amount of difference in a shorter space of time than somebody who doesn't have very good genetics of the wrist, guys, or they don't have very good forearm insertions of the wrist. Okay, for those guys who have got thinner wrists, thinner forearms, their insertions are not as good into the wrist. It's going to take a lot longer, guys. It's going to take a lot of patience and a lot of time to see any noticeable amount of difference. Now, I'm not talking months, I'm talking years, I'm talking 3 to 5 years, in some cases, maybe more. Because for a lot of you guys that want to know how to build thick wrists, you're in your early 20s, some of you guys are teenagers, some of you guys are creeping past the 25-year mark, you're still youngsters. I'm only 29, you know, and if there's one thing I know about bone thickness in the wrists and the forearms, guys, is that most men creeping into their late 30s, mid 40s, even into their 50s, guys, over that space of time, the bone slowly increases with age. Okay? Look at most guys who are in the 40s and 50s. A lot of these guys have got big, thick hands. Okay? Look at your granddads, your fathers, your uncles, people like that who might have worked in manual labour their whole lives, guys. You'll notice they've all got thick forearms, thick wrists, thick hands, but over time, your body, your bones, they're still growing. They don't ever stop growing, guys, not until you get really old and frail and the hormones, the testosterone just decides to completely cut out. Okay, so yeah, you can build thick wrists, guys. Now, for you guys who have got short forearms like myself, and you've got good insertions of the forearms into the wrist, like you can see me pointing at this muscle here, guys, the flexor carpi. This muscle attaches straight into my wrist, helps add thickness to my wrist. Okay, so if you guys with the shorter forearms, you're more likely to see a difference in growth of the wrists in a shorter space of time than somebody who has skinny wrists, okay, who doesn't have very short forearms. They might have a longer forearm, but that doesn't mean, guys, for you guys with shorter forearms, with longer forearms and skinnier wrists, that you can't make a difference to them. You can. It just takes time. That's all it is. It just takes time. So, exercises, guys. Let's talk about exercises and let's talk about ways you can build a thick wrist. Now, you've already heard me talk about um, manual labour, construction jobs, sheet metal workers, electricians, joiners, landscape gardeners, all those type of jobs, guys. And the men that work those jobs have got one thing in common. They've all got big hands, big wrists, and big forearms. Okay? So, and a lot of that just comes down, guys, to having to do a lot of pulling. They're using sledgehammers a lot of the time. They're using lump hammers. They're using screwdrivers. Just all day, all week. Okay, it's just one of the things that help contribute to large wrists, hands, and forearms. So, but can you build the same amount of size in your wrists and forearms through training bodybuilder and grip specific type exercise as well? Yeah, you can, guys. It's already been proven. There's plenty of strongmen out there that have developed thick wrists through plenty of grip training, heavy compound movements. There are grip athletes that have got thick tendons, thick wrists through training grip. Arm wrestlers, guys, have got big wrists, and bodybuilders, guys, bodybuilders who like to train heavy compound movements. So, what I want to say, guys, is you want to get yourself some sledgehammers, you want to start working some radial and ulnar deviation. Get yourself a screwdriver, guys. Start screwing screws into pieces of wood. Okay, screw them all the way in, screw them all the way out. Barbell wrist curls, heavy barbell wrist curls, dumbbell wrist curls, heavy wrist roller, guys. Working the flexion is and the extension is going to work the wrists. I'll look at it like this, guys. Look at the direction the wrist works in. You can extend it, you can flex it, you can radial. You do the radial, you can do the ulnar, you can rotate the wrist can twist in both directions. All you need to do is create exercises that you can implement into all those movements of the wrist. Okay, and just cover all those movements, guys, with a good amount of tension, a good amount of consistency, some patience, and you'll see development in your wrists. And you will, it'll just happen. But for some guys that don't have very good genetics, it's just going to take time. You know, some of you guys, you've got no patience whatsoever. You just want everything on a plate, guys. You know, I built my wrists and my forearms through years of just hard work and patience. Okay, I didn't take any shortcuts. It's all just been done over time. But I've also been blessed with good genetics of the wrists and the forearms, guys, and the neck and the back and the calves. But there are other areas, guys, of my body which I'm not so blessed with. Example, my chest. My chest is piss poor, guys. I can't do anything to build a big chest. My thighs, guys, my upper legs, they're piss poor. You know, I just don't have good genetics in those parts of my body. I can't activate those muscles as well as what I can activate the muscles that I normally talk about. But I'm digressing, guys. So yeah, guys, you can thicken up the wrists. Now another thing I want to talk about is there are tendons, ligaments, and tissues, guys, which can be damaged, they can recover, and they can grow back bigger, and they can grow back stronger, guys. Okay, again, it's been proven it can be done. You just have to be careful. Everything with the wrist has to be gradual, because even though the tendons can take a lot of tension, guys, the wrist joint can. The wrist joint can wear out really, really fast. So you need to allow lots of recovery time when it comes to training the wrist. Okay, so plenty of pinching exercises, guys, using lots of hand grippers, using tennis balls, climbing rope, using fat grips, farmer's walks, just anything, guys, where you're going to attack the tendons. You need to be training the tendons, guys, because the tendons will thicken over time, okay, and they'll add to some size of the wrist. Try working some easy bar or barbell wrist extensions hanging off the knee. They'll attack the muscle that runs across the top of the wrist, guys. If you can thicken out that little muscle, again, that'll add a bit more size to your wrists. Now, I just want to go over a quick story, guys, just for 2 minutes. And I've spoke about this guy who I worked with. Now, I spoke about this guy in a video that I did regarding screw yourself to bigger forearms. You can go back and check that video out. And I was talking about a guy that I worked with some years back who, to this day, has got the most impressive, gigantic, most ripped forearms I have ever come across in my life, and his wrists were humongous. The guy was a freak. He never stepped foot in the gym, guys. Now, he was a sheet metal worker for over 20 years. Now, there was a lump hammer that belonged to the factory that he used to work at. Now, this lump hammer was from like the 1900s. It's like an ancient lump hammer. And he had the honour of being able to use it every day. Now, the reason only he could use it, guys, was because he was the only guy strong enough to pick the damn thing up and use it for 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Now, when I spoke to him about his forearms, I was always saying to him, like, how the hell have you got your forearms so big? Why are your wrists so big? I mean, you don't train, you don't do anything. And he put it down to basically bashing metal all day, every day, never letting go of this lump hammer, guys. And a lot of the work was radial, just radial deviation. you know, when the arm comes up, guys, there's going to be the radial movement of the wrist before it comes crashing back down, and there's going to be a lot of ulnar deviation activation going on in those movements, which I think help develop his wrists and his forearms. Now, he also talked a lot about using screwdrivers, okay, that he gets the biggest pump in his arms through using screwdrivers, and I already talked about that in the previous video, guys, so get using your screwdrivers because they work, they do. But when he was bashing the metal, he said that he believed that he was damaging the wrist constantly. He was sending shock through the wrist, which he believed was causing micro fractures in his wrist joint. It was damaging the tendons, the tissues, the ligaments, the muscles, and he just believed, guys, that over time, when his wrists recovered through all this damage, that his wrists just got bigger. The micro trauma to all the bone in the wrist, the forearms, just over time just kept healing and just getting bigger over time, guys. And I believe there's evidence to prove that this is a true theory. Again, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just going off what this guy used to tell me and some of the research that I've come up with myself. I find it really interesting. So, and obviously, guys, I've worked in construction all my life now. I use heavy sledgehammers to smash concrete, to smash driveways, and things like that, guys. Now, the next day, I always suffer with loads of muscle pain and bone pain in the thumb pad of my hand and in the pinky pad of my hand and also in the wrist. And it takes about 5 days, guys, for this pain to go away. But I'm starting to wonder, guys, if it really is a thing, that if causing trauma and shock to the hands and to the wrists and to the forearms is another way we can look at developing mass over time. But obviously doing it by being careful, guys. We don't want any injuries. But it was just something I wanted to talk to you about, guys, and maybe you could share some of your thoughts and opinions on the matter. I know there's some of you guys who like to comment and tell me about scientific evidence regarding fractures of the bones and that the bones can be thickened and so on and so forth. I find it really interesting, guys, so if it's something that you want to get back to me on, feel free to do so. So there we go, guys. I do believe that you can thicken the wrists, but it takes time, it takes patience, and it takes consistency, and it takes having to work the wrist joint in every angle possible, guys, using sledgehammer work, using barbells, using dumbbells, using grippers, using pinch exercises, using fat grips. Heavy compound movements are all going to contribute to your tendon, your ligament, your bone size and your tissue size of your wrist, guys. Now, like I said before, for you guys who have got very good insertions of the forearm muscles, and as you can see, I'm holding up my wrist. If you guys have got that flexor carpi that runs straight into the hand, guys, you're very lucky. You'll definitely see some more, you can see it there, look, that little muscle popping out under the wrist. You'll definitely see some more noticeable size in the wrist in a shorter space of time. For you guys that aren't so lucky to have the insertions in the forearms and you do have those thin wrists, all I can say, guys, is train the shit out of your grip strength and your tendons. Do plenty of barbell wrist curls, do them heavy, guys, and do lots of leverage exercises on your forearms, and your wrists will grow. But it just takes time. Patience is your best friend when it comes to these kind of body parts, guys, these lagging body parts. Remember that. It just takes time. Patience is always the key word. Right, guys, I've been blabbering on now for almost 15 minutes. Sorry to bore you if I have done, but let me know what you think, guys. If you've got any questions, as always, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Take care, guys. Have a nice day.